Good afternoon. I'm Christina Felchlin, Support Manager with LedgerView Partners. I'd like to welcome you to today's CRM User Group webinar featuring lookup fields, option sets, global option sets, and changing record ownership. We checked out our most read-viewed LedgerView CRM blog posts and found these to be the topics users were most interested in. Today, we are going to let you know what lookup fields are and the best practices for using them. We'll then move on to option sets, let you know how to create, when to use global option sets, and best practices for using them. We'll then move on to changing record ownership, how to change ownership on all records or how to change ownership on some records. Michael is then going to answer the user-submitted questions. I will close out today's webinar with the upcoming CRM User Group webinar details. To ensure the best audio quality for all attendees, we have everyone in listen-only mode. If you have a question, please submit those in the question pane of your GoToWebinar control panel. If time allows, we will answer during today's session. If time does not allow, we promise to follow up offline. Like all LedgerView webinars, today's webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand after the live session. All registered attendees will receive an email this afternoon with an access link to the recording as well as the presentation slides. Now, let's hear from our CRM expert, Michael Dodds.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Christina. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're doing well. We got a lot of great information to get to today, so let's jump on in. First, we're going to talk about lookup fields. Lookup fields is where you create a connection between two entities. For an example of that would be where you have a primary contact on an accounts field, or an account record, excuse me, or you have a contact that references an account. That's a lookup field, creating a connection between those two entities. This adds enhanced abilities for workflows, data mapping, advanced finds or views, and reports. And the reason why that is because you now have that connection, you now have the enhanced ability to filter by different items in that new entity and pull in different data fields as columns and reports and advanced find. Data mapping, as long as you're creating a contact from an account record, you can pull over various information. So it opens up a wide world of possibilities, which is fantastic. Lookup fields also provide the ability to associate a record in a different entity to the current record. So what I mean by that is John Smith is associated to trucking, ABC Trucking. When you're in John Smith's record, you can quickly click right into ABC Trucking and vice versa. So it creates that direct connection. And this is done by doing a lookup, which is a nice fancy CRM way of saying searching for that other record. So each lookup field is set to only search for one entity. Now there are a couple of exceptions. Regarding fields on activities is an exception, and some other out-of-the-box lookup fields are also exceptions. Now let's jump into CRM, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to create a lookup field. So a nice trick in setting up new fields, instead of having to go to customizations within the system settings, if you're already, let's say, in an account, and you want to I want to add a lookup field here. Once you're in the account, there's going to be a ribbon button called Form, as long as you're a system administrator and you have the rights to do this. You just click on Form, and it's going to pop open this nice form editing tool, which is really easy to move around fields, create new fields, and change fields. You can edit them as well. So to create a new field, you're just going to go right down here to the bottom to New Field. And it's going to take just a minute to load that information because, again, it's loading this entire screen for you. You want to set a display name. So for our purposes today, we're going to go with secondary contact. You can set whether you want it to be optional, searchable, which means you can search it within advanced find, and you could also eventually set it to be searchable in global search. Field security starts as disabled and auditing as enabled. These can be adjusted. If you feel that your display name for any reason doesn't really justify what this is, you can put a description in there for your users. Now, the most important piece is right here, type. So your data type, we're going to scroll all the way down here to lookup. And you see how all the information underneath changes. And the reason why you can only do one record type, so one entity, is because you have to select it from your target record type. So if we're looking for a secondary contact, we're going to type in contact, and that's going to be what we're going to look up to, is the target record type. So then we just click on Save and Close. It will create the field and it'll put it in your listing on the right-hand side here, and then you just drag and drop it onto your form. So it's a really easy way to get your form set the way you'd like to. So let's jump back into our PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to talk about some best practices for the lookup fields. You want to set the related records filtering to only show records in the related entity that references the current record. Now, I'm going to go back into the field and show you how to update and set these best practices. I just want to go over them with you real quick. You can also allow users to search any record in that related entity. Excuse me. You can also set search and view settings. So what's most common with a lookup field is that you can search the name. You know, let's say you're searching a contact. You can search their name. If you don't want your users to be searching and you want them to scroll, you can turn off the searchability. You can also set the default view. As was stated before, you can set the different views that your users can utilize to pick the lookup, pick the record, but you can set a default view. So if most commonly they're going to look under their contacts, so my contacts, you can set that as their default view. You can also set whether users can choose a different view to look for records. So you can set the default view and then go, okay, well, I want them to be able to look in every view in case the My Contacts doesn't work for them. Or you can say, you know, they can look up in different views, but only my selected ones that I choose as the system administrator. Or they only can look at the default view. That's it. And then as a user, for faster searching, when you're typing in the name for the lookup field, so when you click in the lookup field, just type in the majority of their name, click Enter. You're going to get a drop down of the top 10 most related results. If your record is not in there, click on Look Up More Records, and then it'll bring you to the full lookup search screen. So let's jump back into CRM, and I'm going to show you how to set up these best practices. So we're going to go back to our form, and we're going to go into a lookup field. So we're going to go into primary contact, and we're going to wait for this to load. What this is loading is all the different features of that field. So as we can see here, related records filtering. So if we decide to say we only want to show records where the contact company name equals the current record. So the company name of the contact we're searching is only related to this account. That's the most common way to look at it, because that's really filtering your search to what you're most likely going to pick. So CRM starts off with that, but you can change it. You can change it to just be the company name contact. Or you can change these to just do the test account created by. You can set all this different information right here in the related records filtering. So just like an advanced find, you're setting the filtering. Now, additional properties, this is where you can decide if you want them to have the display search box to look up in the dialog, or if you want to take away that search box. Then you can set the default view. So if we wanted to set it to My Active Contacts, we could set that right here. Now for our view selector, right now we're saying our users can select any view that they want to. Let's say I want to change this. I only want them to select certain views. I want them to do My Active Contacts and then Active Contacts. what I did there to select this one is I held down Control on my keyboard and I clicked Active Contacts. Then if I simply don't want them to be able to choose any other views, I just select Off. Now all they can do is search in my active contacts, and that's it. Once you have that set, you just click OK. As always, when you're in a form, always do Save, Publish, and then Save and Close. If you don't publish, those changes we just made will not be reflected in the form within CRM. So it's very important to click Publish. Next, we're going to take a look at option sets. Option sets allows the user to set the data of a field from a specified list of options. So simply what that means is, if you as a system administrator want to narrow down what is put into a specific field, you're only allowing the user to pick from a specified list that you created. So what this does is also allows the system administrator, because they're limiting that selection, it makes searching through Advanced Find easier. So we all know with text fields, especially if it's a lead source, if you're typing in trade show, some people might abbreviate trade show. They might do trade show dash what the trade show was. Where if you do it in lead source and you do an option set, you can have it the exact same way. That way when you do the Advanced Find search, you know you're finding all trade shows. You're not going to maybe miss somebody that abbreviated it or put an extension onto a trade show when they were typing it in. And then those option sets, they can be updated with new options, and old options can be removed. One of my favorite features of option sets is global option sets. Global option sets are best used when you want to use one option set across multiple entities. So for example, listing the rating on a lead, and then you want to list that on an account and the opportunity entities. Previously, what you had to do is you had to create a new option set for each entity. And then if you made any changes, you had to go into each option set and make the same change each time. Where now you can create one option set called a global option set, and then just create the new option set field listing the global option set for each entity. So you're creating 3 fields, but you only created one option set. And my other favorite feature is you only have to make one change. If you need to make a change to the option set, you only have to do it once. And it'll go across all entities. It'll make the change globally. Now there's 2 different ways to create a global option set. One of them is to go through the settings, customizations, customize the system. Click on option sets. It'll be just underneath entities. Then click on new and complete this screen right here. The other way that I'm going to show you how to do within CRM is to do it right from the option set field. So let's jump back into CRM. So if we go to new field, so if we click on new field, again, it'll take just a minute to load this information for us. And this screen will look very familiar to when we did the lookup field. So if we want to put in lead source, for example, again, we can set our field requirement, set if it's searchable, field security and auditing. Data type, again, the most important. Click on option set. Field type is, we're going to keep this simple. Calculated is a calculated field. That's a little bit of a more advanced item. And then we have use existing option set. What we want to do is we want to click on yes. And then as you can see down here, it changed everything. Now it's going to say, okay, what existing option set do you want to use? Or do you want to create a new one? We're going to create a new option set. And we're going to set this as lead sourcing. And then if you don't feel that lead sourcing is informative enough, you can put in a description. Now, to add new options, you simply click the plus button. It's automatically going to come up with the label as item, and it's going to default to this value. What we want to do is we're going to set this as trade show. So we set that to what we want the option to be listed as. Since we're creating a brand new option set, we're going to leave this value as is. Now we're going to create a new one, and we're going to do prospecting list. Now this is where it gets important when you're creating your second option. So you can see our first option was 100 million. We're going to set this to be at least 20 above, the value to be 20 greater than the previous. So we're going to go 100 million 20. And then for our next, if we do referral, we're going to do 100 million 40. This is a best practice when creating option sets. It creates less issues. We have experienced issues where you do one after the other in the past. So I highly recommend going 20 or more between each value setting. Once you're done, you just simply click Save and Close. Now your global option set is complete. And once this saves, it does take a minute to save because it's saving it in 2 spots. You're going to see this option set is selected right here as lead sourcing. Now, a great part of option sets is you can set a default value. So what an option set is automatically going to be selected as can be selected right here. So that means if your user doesn't make any changes, it's always going to be trade show or always going to be prospecting list. A lot of people leave this as unassigned and make the user make a selection. Once you've set that information, you just do Save and Close, and it's creating your field just like it did for the lookup field. So let's jump back into our PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to go over some best practices. Some of them we did touch on. When setting the values, you want to go 20 or more between each one. You can set the order of your options and how they're going to display in the option set. There are up and down arrows next to the plus sign. Simply click those to move your options up and down. For global option sets, the display name, you want to make that easy and understandable. So you want to make that really easy and understandable because if you don't, anyone else that's going back and using it is not going to be able to follow. When adding a new option, always find that highest value of an existing option set, then go 20 above it. Because if you use the same exact value, you're going to run into an error. When removing options, you want to make sure that you change the option or remove the option from all records in CRM that utilize it. So if, for instance, prospecting list, you're removing that. You want to run an advanced find all records that use prospecting list, delete them, or change it to a different name. Otherwise, the value behind the scenes is going to stay the same, and you're going to run into an issue later on. And the global option sets can be edited from that field we were just in. Lookup fields versus option sets. There really is no correct answer. They're both great fields to use. It's more the difference of when you want to use them. You want to utilize lookup fields when you'd like a direct connection between 2 entities and 2 records. An option set should be used when you want to restrict the data that goes into a specific field. So you want it to be a specific value or a specific set of values. Next, we're going to talk about changing record ownership. There's 3 different ways to do this. All the records the user owns, 1 record the user owns, and a grouping. First, we're going to start off with all records. So when moving all records owned by a user and transitioning them to a new user, I'm going to show you exactly how to do these pieces right here. So let's jump into CRM and I'll show you how to reassign all records. So if we go to our settings, security, we're going to go to that specific user's user record. So we're going to go to users, and we're going to pick on Josh today. So let's say Josh is, for some reason, leaving the company, and we need to reassign his account. So we go into Josh's records, we click on Reassign Records. Now, if they're going to myself, I can just leave this as assigned to me, click OK, ready to go. Now, you can also assign these to another user. So if I wanted to assign these to Christina, I would just simply type in Christina in our lookup field. So I type in Christina, she's right here, and then I would select OK. Now note that this will assign all records by the selected user, so by Josh, regardless of state. Now what that means is whether they're active, inactive, completed, canceled, they're going to move anything owned by Josh to Christina. Now the next way to do it is a single record. And with a single record, just navigate to the desired record. So if we're going to Alpine Ski House, the account, we're just going to simply click on Assign, follow those same steps. Choose whether it's going to go to myself or select the user we want to reassign it to. Now please note that any cascading rules in effect could cause additional subordinate records to be reassigned. What that means is, for an account, if there's any contacts, opportunities, activities, those could be reassigned as well, based on your cascading rules. Now, if you want to change a group of records, I recommend utilizing Advanced Find and reassign them through filtering logic. And what I mean by that is set your filtering logic to find the accounts, contacts, opportunities, whichever records you'd like by the filtering. Then check mark all those records that you want to be reassigned, then click on Assign and follow those same steps. Again, cascading rules are going to go into effect here as well, so some subordinate records could be reassigned as well. That's all for our main topics today. Let's jump into some user questions. Our first user question is, how do I set up business rules? Can I use the OR functionality? And also, how do I hide or show using business rules while having required fields? Those are great questions. To set up a business rule, you'll actually go into the record, go to that form section where we created the new fields, except up top there's going to be a new business rule section. Click on that, and then there's going to be new business rule. I'm going to jump into CRM and show you exactly how to do this. Then you're going to set your conditions and resulting actions. And then an otherwise if is also known as else within the business rules. So let's jump into CRM, and I'm going to quickly show you how to do that. So if we go to our form and we click up here in business rules, you see right down here, new business rule. It's going to pop open a new form. We're going to name this demo. I always recommend starting out with a naming. Then here's your if-then condition. So if we click here to add the condition, so if account name equals test, then a resulting action is to set the visibility. Then we want to hide owner. So we're going to go owner, and we're going to go hide field and check mark. Now regarding the OR statement, add a secondary condition. See right here, and or. And means both conditions must apply, or means either condition has to apply. Now back to our last question from this group from our user question, excuse me. How do I hide / show business using business rules while having required fields? What you'll want to do is you're going to want to have a condition that sets a field as required. Whatever that condition is that sets it required, you're also going to want to set it to show. If it's ever required, you don't want it to be hidden as well. So if you're setting it as hidden to start, meaning the field is hidden to start and then you're showing it based on a condition, you only want to show it if it's required as well. Same thing when you hide it. When you hide the field, you want to make it unrequired as well. Otherwise, you're going to have a required field that's hidden, and that's going to be very confusing for the user, and they're not going to be able to save. Our next question is, my Outlook client will not allow me to track certain email attachments. What do I do? Most of the time, this is going to be due to the email attachment size limit that's set for your organization. Simply increase the size, and you'll be able to track this email with the attachment. Note the max amount is 32 megabytes. To increase the size, simply go to Settings, Administration, System Settings, and then the Email tab within System Settings. There'll be a section that says Set Size for email attachments. This size is listed in kilobytes, so make sure that you're doing the conversion. Please note you'll want to wait about 5 minutes, then restart Outlook. Once Outlook is restarted, go back in and track that email. Our next question is, our users are unable to set the regarding field to accounts to any activities. What steps do I need to take? That's a great question, and what this is it's a security settings issue. So there are roles that are assigned to each user. So what you will want to do is go into the role, navigate to the Core Records tab, and then you're going to want to check Account and Activities. They're the top two. And you want to make sure that the Append To section is set for Account, and the Append section is set for Activities. Let's jump into CRM. I'm going to show you this real quick. So within Security, we're going to go to Security Roles, and we're just going to open up Salesperson. And security roles can be very confusing. So for Core Records, if this person was having the issue, this Append To would be blank, and this Append for Activity would be blank. Essentially what we're saying here is that we're on the activity record. We want to append the account to the activity, meaning regarding it to the activity. And the activity, we're appending it with regarding information to the account. It can be very confusing, but the way you want to set it is Append To for account, Append for activity. And then you can set it as they can only do it for their records they own, records in their business unit, records between parent and child business units, which can be confusing if you have multiple business units this could apply to you, or fully green is across the organization. Then you would just hit Save and Close, and you would have your settings updated, and they would be able to do the regarding field to the account. So our next question is, I am in CRM 2013. I'm trying to export a large list of accounts, and I cannot export the full amount. This is a common issue for anything that's CRM 2013 or earlier. The max amount of records that can be exported in those editions is 10,000. So if when you export that spreadsheet and it only goes to row 10,001, that means you're trying to export more than 10,000 records. In CRM 2015, however, this limit increases to 100,000. Now, to resolve this issue, if you're on Dynamics CRM 2013 or earlier, there's a specific solution that can be imported where we can adjust the max amount of, or adjust the amount of exported records. LedgerView Partners, a support consultant here, would be happy to help you with the import of the solution, setting the record limit higher. Our next question is, how do I change a field from a single line of text to a multi-line text field? That is an excellent question, and unfortunately there is not an easy answer to this. Because you are changing the type, which is this portion down here, every time you set the data type and then do a save and close, everything including the data type is locked down. That cannot be edited. So the only way to do this would be create a brand new field with a slightly different name, because if it's the exact same name, you'll get an error within CRM. So you'll follow the same exact steps we did before of creating a new field. You'll just set the display name, and under data type, you'll do multiple lines of text. Now, what many of you are probably thinking is, well, I already have this other field with single line of text. I don't want to lose that data. What you do is you leave both fields on the form. Run an advanced find to locate everything that has data in this field for the single line of text. And then you can utilize two things. You can do the export-import functionality. So export the information out, copy and paste the information from the single line text field to the multiple lines of text field, and re-import. Another option is to do an on-demand workflow that will simply move the data from one field to the other. Those are the two best ways to create a new field and, most importantly, not lose the data. Then you'll just go back in and remove the old single line of text field.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you for the great content. We encourage you to continue to ask your CRM questions before the next meeting. We want to make sure we are getting the answers to your most sought after questions. I can't believe it, but Thanksgiving is next week. Our offices will be closed to enjoy the holiday on Thursday and Friday, November 24th and 25th. Our next CRM user group webinar will be on Tuesday, December 20th at 1 p.m. And our topics will be creating custom activity feeds and using calculated fields. If you are looking for past webinar recordings, please click the recording link in the email I send this afternoon. It will bring you to our user group webinar library. Please scroll through the list and view those you are most interested in. We have webinars in there for advanced finds, reporting, sales activities, marketing, Outlook client, and many others. On behalf of Michael and I and all of us at LedgeView, thank you for spending time with us today.